This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
All right, let's get started. Hi, Peg. Hello. Okay, we have a hell of an agenda with a lot of things on it. So before that, let's see. We don't have minutes to approve, do we? No. Okay. So no minutes. Mayor communication. Mayor, you're on the call, right? Do you have anything? I'll take that as no. Okay. So let's get into it then. The fire department has requested to go first because of a schedule conflict. So I've said yes to that. If anyone has a problem with that, they can take it up to the chief.
Councilor Coniff disagrees.
Things not too soft. All right. So I think we have 3 appropriations from for the fire, right?
If one of them's the IOD,
That'll come out of my
HR, Emily's gonna
Okay.
take care of that one.
So I'll put that. So we've got them to 2. All right. So let's start with this one is $14,930 from free cash for ambulance supplies and miscellaneous and professional and technical services. Chief, you want to talk about this?
Yeah, absolutely. So we, again, just as a reminder, the fire department has 2 budgets. One is the appropriations for EMS services and one's for fire services. So the one for EMS services is $14,930, of which $11,500 is for ambulance supplies and $3,430 is for miscellaneous and technical services. The $3,430, that one there was a invoice that the fire department paid for police, fire, and dispatch for the annual subscription fee for our mental health app for all the employees in police, fire, and EMS. So that's just backfilling what we previously paid, which was not obviously budgeted for at the beginning of the year.
So going forward, that'll be in the budget?
That's correct, yes. So that covers police, fire, and dispatch for that $3,430. And then the $11,500 for ambulance supplies. That really is to get us through the end of this fiscal year for EMS supplies. We initially were budgeted $70,000, of which in our EMS budget, I had to pull from that line item to cover some of the unanticipated expenditures for the mechanics and maintenance on the ambulances. So that's backfilling for maintenance and upkeep for the ambulances to get us through the end of the year. So that is the 2 line items for that request.
Okay. Councilors, any questions on this appropriation? No? Okay. I don't have any questions. I appreciate these year-end appropriations used to be a whole lot bigger. So
yeah, and certainly, just speaking for the fire department, working with the mayor and her financial team over the years, the big one has always been the upkeep and maintenance of vehicles and those unanticipated expenditures. In both police and fire, you have emergency vehicles that are being used as emergency vehicles. And it's hard to anticipate if an engine's going to blow or something like that. Certainly we could, just increase the budget, whatever amount. But, we understand that coming back at the end of the year, we have the documentation and we can justify the need. So.
Okay. Unless there's anything else, I would entertain a motion to recommend this appropriation to the full council. Okay, I think I saw your.
Did it not work?
Now I hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. I assume you said
second.
Okay, great. A motion is second. All in favor. Councilor Coniff?
Aye.
Councilor Denham? I vote aye. Motion passes. Okay, second fire one is not requested is $40,000. This is going to a mixture of fire medical, vehicle repairs, fire equipment, fire education training and building equipment.
Yep, so I'll walk through that. Again, under the fire medical, that is the cost that's being incurred as we move forward, 2 new hires for the medical evaluations. The vehicle repairs, I just kind of touched on that a minute ago. That there again is the one that we always stay hyper focused on and try to make sure that we're using our due diligence. But to give you an idea, with our ladder truck, within the last 4 weeks, we learned that the ladder truck needed a new diesel particulate exhaust filter, and that was $10,000. Obviously, when you look at my budget, the budget this year for repairs to vehicle and equipment was $10,000. So that's, again, you know, the mayor and I had a great discussion. She was very supportive when we talked about the need to keep that in service. So I had to pull that $10,000 from another line item in fire OM to keep that going and keep that process moving forward. Fire equipment, $7,000 is for the annual service testing on all the fire hose. We have 15,000 feet of fire hose based on the National Fire Protection Association national standards and industry best practices that needs to be tested annually. So that covers the cost for that. And then the same thing for the extrication equipment. We have 2 sets of extrication equipment on engines 1 and 2. And again, based on the national standards that needs to be service tested. I had that money initially budgeted with the support of the mayor and her financial team. But again, I had to move that at the time to cover the repairs and maintenance of the vehicles. So that's going back in there if this transfer goes forward. For $3,000 for fire education and training, that is because we've had more people continue their education for degrees to cover that cost. And then the building equipment and maintenance, $1,500 is to do the annual service on the vehicle exhaust removal system. And then $1,500 is for the Vision 21. The Vision 21 system, that's actually in dispatch. And just so the counselors and the public understand what that is, there's fire alarm transmitting stations across the city that monitor fire alarm and smoke detector systems. When those activate, it sends a signal, and this is the receiving station that's in dispatch. So that's the annual service for that Vision 21 receiving station.
Interesting.
So
if, well, you know, it's not related to the budget. I'm interested in how that system works, but it's not related to the budget. We have a lot of things to go over, so I'll just ask you about it some other time.
very quickly, Williston. Williston has a number of what they call radio boxes. They run on a radio frequency. When the alarm activates for fire alarm activation, it sends the radio frequency to dispatch. That's the receiving station that then alerts dispatch to the fire alarm. They tone out the appropriate resources.
Okay, great.
It's as simple as that. So that's to cover the annual service and dispatch for that.
That's pretty cool. All right, counselors, any questions?
No.
My only question was going to be about whether some of these things should have been in the budget, but it sounds like they were, and it was just a matter of things getting mixed around, which that's satisfactory to me.
Yeah, if you go back and look 2 years ago, again, working with the mayor, we increased this current fiscal year's budget to address some of these to minimize the potential for this occurring. And then we also, you know, took another step forward in next fiscal year's budget for the same thing. As we start to continue to collect the data and look at the trends out there, you know, we can definitively say more consistently that it's no longer reliable to say $10,000 is going to meet the needs for the fire apparatus. You have $1 million ladder truck. You have 2 engines in there at $750,000 a piece. You have 3 ambulances that are $1.5 million collectively. And prices are going up for all emergency services. So that's the unfortunate reality. And I guess I'll end with this is that this is my 5th year being here, and the first year that we're not coming back for an appropriation in fire or EMS PS.
Mm-hmm.
And we've always, again, been focused on overtime. And when you look at our budget for this past fiscal year, we're very proud to stay within the parameters, particularly overtime. Overtime was funded at $150,000. When you look at this past fall and some of the responses for the brush fires, we were activated on 2 large task forces, one the Great Barrington and one the Northampton. That cost our department close to $10,000. That wasn't budgeted, obviously, but it was able to be absorbed within our budget. And then working with the union, Brenda's oversight as our office manager to kind of keep us all in line. We adjusted some schedules. We used our training officer to cover some shifts. This is the first time in 5 years we're not asking for any additional overtime. With
And I
all
do
those,
appreciate
with all those variables. So that's, kudos to the mayor, and her team and Brenda's financial oversight for our organization.
Super. Okay. Anything else? Okay. I would entertain a motion to recommend this appropriation to the full council.
So moved.
Motion second, all in favor, Councilor Coniff,
Aye.
Councilor Denham. I vote aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
You can get out
I
of here.
apologize, that's about teacher.
No.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
These are kind of jumbled up, and I think that probably the most efficient thing to do is just to go down them at the order that they're in this pile, rather than try and rearrange the pile in real time. So apologies if that makes it a little chaotic.
Hey, we're all here for the long haul.
Yep. All right, well then, why don't we go ahead and do the IOD fire medical expense?
Absolutely. So this is for a claim that happened in 2023 that we're still paying on. This person is still actively employed, but it is a prior fiscal year deductibles. So it's just covering those expenses. I'm hoping that this coming year that will be resolved. And that person will either be back to work or, we're gonna fix that issue, but it is a prior year claim. And we did account for a little bit more for potential bills that will come in before the end of the year.
I see. Councilors, any questions? All right. These things happen. I would entertain a motion to recommend this appropriation to the full council.
I moved. Second.
All right, motion and a second. All in favor, Councilor Coniff?
Aye.
Councilor Denham?
Aye.
I vote aye.
Thank you.
It's all set.
Thank you for the feedback on that. Appreciate it.
Next up, we've got a $20,945 appropriation for school and city liability.
Yeah, so this one is just a request for a prior fiscal year bill to be paid out of this year. It's not really appropriating new funds, but rather to use the funds for this fiscal year for those previous years, just for deductibles from cases or claims that were opened last year or the year before that are still ongoing.
I see.
So just the charges for those claims. We haven't quite met our deductibles on these yet. So that's what, again, just using funds that already are currently in the budget. I'm just requesting that they be used for last fiscal year's bills.
I see.
Yeah.
Councilors, any questions on this? All right. I also don't have any questions. This is something that seems to happen from time to time. I would entertain a motion to recommend this appropriation of the full council.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor, Councilor Coniff,
Aye.
Councilor Denham,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Motion passes. Next one we have, this is the police department one. It's $113,010.14. Going to police base pay, police overtime, police sick leave, police unused vacation, and police auto expense. So.
Yeah, so sure. So I'll start. So first, a big chunk of that, $50,510.14 was to cover the costs for contractual payout for Staff Sergeant Brian Ross. He was an employee of the department for over 32 years and retired. So all his accrued time totaled that amount, which obviously wasn't budgeted for. 57,000 of that is for overtime expenses. Over the course of the year, we had one officer on maternity leave. She was actually on light duty for about the last 6 months of her pregnancy, and then on FMLA after the birth of the child. We also had 3 officers that did the FMLA paternity leave. So they were out for about a month with shifts having to be filled. We had our new K-9 officer, Jerry. He was in K-9 school for a total of 12 weeks, which had an open spot, which we did our best to keep filled at the bare minimum, but resulted in overtime. We currently have one officer deployed to South Africa. He's in the military. He's been gone since, I believe it was December, and it's I think an 11-month tour. So we actually don't have him back until November or December. We also have 2 additional officers that are assigned to the National Guard. So their military training 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks a year caused overtime. And then we've been short one officer just recently for the hiring position for the chief position, and still waiting to backfill that officer, as well as we have one officer that was backfilled from a previous retirement from Sergeant Ross that is still, he's been into the FTO program, but while he is an officer, he isn't able to be out on his own just yet. So his open beat is causing overtime. So for all those reasons, we sharpen the pencil as best we can. That 57,000 is just to cover the shortfall with the estimated amount through the end of the fiscal year. The last $5,500 is for cruiser supplies, maintenance and repairs. That is one line that, as the fire chief said, can be hit pretty hard. This year, we did our best. We've been cycling our cars, even our old cars are old, but we're still keeping them going and cycling with our new. But between tires, there's a drum of oil that we need to purchase. One other item I don't have in front of me, but that totals the anticipated shortfall of $5,500.
Okay. Counselors, any questions?
I have just one quick one. When you talk about things like the auto expense, 5,500, is that something that's a routine line item in the budget? It was just either unanticipated things that happened this year, or where does that 5,500 lie for fiscal year 20? What are we, 26?
For fiscal year 26, I know our ops manager is on the call. I believe our line item, I want to say, is somewhere around 15,000. And the 5,500, we were actually much shorter than that. But our ops manager had moved money around from other line items that weren't fulfilled to try to cover those cruiser costs. But we still came up 5,500 short. I remember, so it was tires that was included. Tires, the wear and tear on the vehicles, to be only the 5,500 over, that doesn't actually represent the total cost. It was much more than that. We're hoping for the years going forward with the new fleet program and cycling out of new cars and not having to drive. The majority of our cars are at or above 100,000 miles. We only have a couple of line cruisers that you see on patrol every day under 100,000 miles. Hopefully with that, that'll keep the costs down in future years.
Okay, thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right. I would entertain a motion to recommend this appropriation to the full council.
So moved.
Motion second. All in favor, Councilor Coniff?
Aye.
Councilor Denham? And I vote aye.
There's not your work cut out for you with all this talking, right?
Between this and next week with the budget, I need to make sure to take care of my voice.
I'm gonna bring him a hot tea next week.
Yeah, I'm gonna get
We'll get you a nice little ginger lemon tea or something.
throat coat. That's the stuff that I use. Like, yeah, I should get like a little one of those, you know?
Yes, I'll bring you one. I'll bring an extra for you.
There you go. All right. Next up is snow. I don't know if anyone wants to speak to this, but this is something that we do every year. I think everyone knows the drill at this point.
I think Greg's on the call.
Greg, do you want to speak to this?
I can if there's a specific question.
Not from me, but
I want to go line item by line item snowflake by snowflake of how we got to these numbers. I'm kidding.
No.
I mean, the long and short of it is just a lot of salt and long duration storms. Salt was expensive this year. There was
Yeah.
that national
Yeah.
shortage of it. And, it's just the weather we get now is these long duration icing events that require lots and lots of salt to be put down. And we missed the storms where you got a foot of snow, you plowed it off and salted once, but that just doesn't happen anymore, it seems.
Yep.
Yeah, too bad.
Okay.
Well, it's what we incurred. Any other questions? All right, I would entertain a motion to recommend this appropriation to the full council.
Second.
Motion second, Councillor Coniff,
Aye.
Councillor Denham.
Aye.
I vote aye. All right, we've got one. Okay, this looks like another. We've got a $2,000 for free cash to animal control professional services.
Yeah, so I'll speak on that quickly. So the animal control budget falls under the purview of the police department. In November of this past year, we signed our annual contract with the Westfield Animal Control Office. The monthly rate went from $668.88 to $801.10. So leaving that monthly shortfall of $132.22. And then on top of that, every time animal control has to come out and respond to any call, there's always a fee. I have a list of fees. I don't have a breakdown of each call, but just a simple call out alone is $50. It could be $100 if it's after hours. If they have to take a cat or dog and they have to provide any rabies vaccinations, that's additional costs. And they had to help us out a lot. Back a few months back, we had an outbreak of rabid raccoons in town. So it was, we were using them quite frequently. So to cover all the shortfall from the new contract, along with anticipated shortfalls for the end of the fiscal year, we came to a total of $2,000 shortfall.
Okay. That all makes sense. I guess the one question I would have is with the cost adjustments, is it still the city's position that the contract with Westfield is the best partnership we could have going forward?
So we've explored other avenues.
Mm-hmm.
We've had meetings with the mayor and the city of Northampton, and we are looking at other avenues. I don't know that it can happen in the short term, like this fiscal year, but I definitely think that there are other avenues to explore, and we are actively exploring them and doing everything with the most fiscally responsible thoughts in mind.
Cool. I only ask because I've had a few, I think no one I've ever heard say anything bad about the services that the folks in Westfield provide, but I've had a couple constituents maybe that expressed that there's just the response time coming from Westfield has been maybe not completely ideal, which, I mean, what are they going to do? I'm not saying that anyone did anything wrong, but like just as costs are changing, it's something that I might encourage people to just keep an eye on. If there's something with a more adjacent town, then maybe that would be a smart thing to look into.
Sure. Thank you.
Councilors, anything? All right, I would make a motion to, or I would entertain a motion to recommend this appropriation of the full council.
Second.
Second, all in favor, Councilor Coniff,
Aye.
Councilor Denham.
Aye.
I vote aye. Okay. Next up, we've got a $28,000 appropriation from free cash to be transferred to school and city Medicare expenses.
I did not, usually that's something that comes out of the treasurer's department. I'm assuming it's probably to do with our contributions towards Medicare.
Chair Peak?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so Emily is right, usually out of the treasurer's office. These are numbers that are, best guess, kind of very frequent, often appropriation we come back for to fill a gap as far as unexpected or larger than usual bills in this line item. So we do the best to, and you'll see in the 26 budget, to figure out what we've used and what might be coming at us. But it's a very common line item that cannot be predicted. And some years we're under, some years we're over, most years we are under.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I've seen this before. I have one, it's a small point, but it's one request here as the person who does these readings, which is, these are the ones where there's often the transfer is just a numerical code for an account without any name on the account. And I
Yep.
just want to say that making the motion on those in a way that technically meets with like what you should be doing on first and second reading, when it's just what is that, like a 11-digit number, is a bit of a pain in the butt. So if there's a way you could come up with a nickname for those accounts, that would be awesome. But other than that, I don't have anything. Councilors, do you have any? All right. Well, in that case, I would entertain a motion to recommend this appropriation to full council.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor? Councilor Coniff,
Aye.
Councilor Denham.
Aye.
I vote aye. Motion passes. Okay. Now we've got a $300,000 appropriation from free cash for school intergovernmental.
Hi,
Hello.
thank you. Thanks for having me. Yes, we're requesting the 300,000. We had 4 areas of budget deficits this year. Our out of district placements for special education, as IEPs change, as students enter the district, we're responsible for providing them with appropriate educational experiences, and some of those costs are unanticipated. So we did end up with a little bit of budget deficit there. Special education transportation as well was an area that is, again, comes as IEPs change and as services change. We didn't project all of those into anticipated budget costs there. McKinney-Vento homeless transportation for foster care and foster care transportation was another area where we had a budget deficit. At the beginning of the year, we had 1 student requiring those services, and at the end of the year, we had 11 students requiring those transportation services. And along with that comes the special education instructional costs too. The independent evaluation, if parents request outside evaluations for their students, those come with a cost. So we just didn't have all the appropriate funds to support those in our budget. So we're requesting the 300 to partially shore up our budget deficit for the year.
I see. Councilors, any questions, comments?
I do not.
I'll just say that, the schools, historically, the schools have not come before us a lot. There's been a big conversation about this over the last few years, and I think that there has been, part of that is a bit of a trust exercise that the school committee said, well, what happens if there's a shortfall? And we've said, well, come for an appropriation and we'll help make that right. And so I intend to, fulfill that thing that I said I would do in this room many times. So I know that you guys are hard at work just trying to figure out sort of some of these structural issues, and if there's something that can be done about that. And I would just encourage that if there's things that we can be doing to support, like sort of addressing some of these structural problems that end up causing these things, I think we'd be interested in having those conversations.
Excellent. Appreciate that too. And appreciate the mayor's support here as well.
Great. I would entertain a motion to recommend this appropriation to the full council.
So moved. Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
So,
Aye.
Yes, Councilor Coniff,
Aye.
Councilor Dunham, and I vote aye. I keep forgetting the roll call thing, but
You're doing great.
Recorded. You just press a button and have it recorded.
yeah. Great, thank you. Okay, the next one is a $270,000 appropriation from free cash for 32B health and dental insurance.
Yes, this is to cover the remaining expenses for health and dental insurance for our school and city employees as well as our retirees. We, as you all know, we had the 18% increase that goes into effect July 1. We take premiums out 1 month in advance, so we're paying for July premiums now. And health insurance is always kind of a moving target when we're budgeting for that, because we just don't know what kind of plans people are going to enroll in or change to throughout the year. So, someone can start out on a single plan and then end up at a family plan by the end of the year, or vice versa. So we really can only guesstimate to the best of our abilities. So this is to kind of fill that gap of what we were not able to anticipate, fortunately, especially with that 18% increase.
Yeah, I don't think any of us saw that coming.
No, no, we did not.
Counselors, any questions about this? Counselor Dennis.
Go.
So just to be clear, so it's 67,000 a month? 60,000?
We divided it up into the 4 different accounts, which encompass active school, active city, retired school, and retired city, and then we'll reallocate as needed. So we just wanted to make sure we had enough to get us through the rest of the year, and then we'll shift it.
So that's what each of these accounts is.
Yes.
So again, it would be.
Yes, we can. I can
It'd
make
be
a
a lot
note
easier to
to
say active
yeah.
school than 00191405600. But
It's
yeah.
very good to know. Thank you.
Okay, that makes sense. I was kind of wondering how they were perfectly. So the idea is that once they're there, it's an intra-departmental transfer to move them around.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes enough sense. Other questions, Councilor Conick?
Just one. Emily, is this, just to be clear, these are premiums, not claims that have been?
Yes, this is premium. So this is the city's, so the city pays 75% of the health insurance for active employees and then 50% for retired employees. This is to cover the city's portion of the health insurance premiums.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? I would entertain a motion to recommend this appropriation to the full council.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, Councilor Coniff.
Aye.
Councilor Denham.
Aye.
I vote aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have workers' comp one, so it's $9,102. And it looks like this is another old bill type thing because it's being transferred from an account to.
Yeah, so it's using this year's funding to cover. So every year when they send us our insurance bill for liability insurance and workers' compensation, they'll do like an estimate on how much they think we're going to owe for workers' compensation that year. And then halfway through the year in like November, they do an audit to see where we actually are. Sometimes we end up getting a credit back due to that audit, and then sometimes we end up owing. So this year, we had a couple more employees that were in more workers' comp, like higher risk codes than we normally, than we did last year or whatever. So they had to make that
And that's
adjustment.
based on like occupation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So like custodians will have a higher workers' compensation code than like an administrative staff.
That makes sense. Okay, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's fine. So this is because of the audit. We ended up owing a little bit this year. And so this is to compensate for what we owed. It's a prior year bill. We're paying it out of this year's budget.
That makes sense to me. Councilors, any questions? All right, I would entertain a motion to recommend this appropriation to the full council.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, Councilor Coniff.
Aye.
Councillor Denham.
Aye.
I vote aye.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Okay, the next one is, PEG access account. I think we all know the drill here. But for the benefit of anyone who's watching, we need to basically move this money in and out of this account just to authorize it to then go to Easthampton Media from the franchise fees that we collect from Spectrum for cable TV. So I don't imagine there's any questions, but anything, councilors? All right. I would entertain a motion to recommend this appropriation to the full council.
So moved. Second.
Motion second, all in favor, Councillor Coniff,
Aye.
Councillor Denham.
Aye.
I vote aye. Motion passes. Okay, next up, we've got an appropriation for $19,000, $19,309.60 from free cash to cannabis stabilization. Hadel or Mayor, would either of you like to weigh in on this?
I can explain this one. We were trying to use up all the cannabis stabilization leftover money in the account to support the budget for fiscal year 2025. Normally, when I look at the account numbers, I have to see undesignated fund balance, which is 3590.
Mhm.
Except for stabilization, I have to check the cash account, which is 1040. I misread. I put in the wrong account number instead of 3590. Instead of looking at the 1040 account, I looked at the 3590. That resulted into deficit into this account. So we need to, there is still an interest coming in, but it won't be fast enough to cover this deficit. So I just want to get the deficit off of my book so it doesn't hit the free cash next year.
Okay. Well, makes sense to me. Councilors, any questions?
No.
All right. I would entertain a motion to recommend this appropriation to the full council.
So moved.
Second.
A second, all in favor, Councilor Coniff,
Aye.
Councilor Denham. I vote aye. Motion passes. Okay, we've got $2,400,000 appropriation from free cash. 1,800,000 of that would be going to general stabilization, 500,000 to capital stabilization, and 100,000 to tax rate stabilization. Mayor Hadel, either you want to address this? Mayor?
Yes. So, for the sake of the public, our free cash was certified on the 28th of May, and looking at the amount we have, the backfill to 1.8 is going back to the 1.8 that I'd used in prior fiscal years. I heard very clearly from the council that they were worried or concerned about the money in general stabilization and put 1.8 back. On this appropriation, I would just want to say for the public record, we have new financial policies, and the strategy as free cash goes down would be keeping, again, 2 to 4% of the prior year's general fund balance. So this is a higher amount than under that policy, but I wanted to listen to the concerns that council had. The next is general stabilization. Again, we have a healthy balance there. We have been spending capital according to our capital plan, but also capital plan and also replacing vehicles, especially vehicles or bigger pieces of equipment and repairs that are capital right along rather than to fix them because of efficiency going forward. And at some point, how much money are you going to put into repair? before you just buy something new. You know, over the last year, there have been some big expense. So the 500 is back there. And then the last $100,000 into tax stabilization. Again, this helps with lowering the amount of money we have to raise on the tax levy. This number has been variable over the last few years since I created the account. We wanted to provide some buffer for all of the taxpayers, just given, you know, values have gone up, taxes have gone up, and we want to hedge for all taxpayers across the board. And hopefully that trickles down a little bit to our renters.
Right. Councilors, any questions? All right. I would entertain a motion to recommend this appropriation to the full council.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, Councilor Coniff?
Aye.
Councilor Denham?
Aye.
I vote aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And then I think the last three we have are all DPW. So I'll start with this 136,000 from enterprise retained earnings to the FY25 water SCADA, or do you say that as SCADA, or, well, anyway, that project. Greg, do you want to speak to that?
I can if there's a specific question. I had submitted a memo with the appropriation paperwork. Did anyone have a chance to review that?
The memo, yes.
So that basically describes all three of them that are on there, but if there's a specific question, I'm happy to.
Okay, so just for the purpose of it in the public, the SCADA is supervisory controls and data acquisition. It's a system that is original to the Hendrick Street facility. They typically last about 15 years. The controllers and communication equipment are obsolete, so they're asking for 136,000 to be transferred to fund the work of updating this. Did I get anything wrong, Greg?
No, that you pretty much covered it. What that system does is just regulates the tank heights of the amount of water we have in storage to keep system pressure. Kind of in a nutshell, just keep the system pressure right where we need it to be. And one important thing to add is it's somewhat serving as match funding also. The IT department did an excellent job at submitting for a community compact IT grant to fund about 50% of this cost. I think it was 137. I don't have it in front of me, but that we got through the grant. So we're really offsetting quite a bit of that with we're offsetting quite a bit of the cost with grant funding. So it's great. Really appreciate Karen's work on getting that grant to the city.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Good.
Chair, can I just add on this one, the grant? So the system that we're upgrading has been identified, and actually in different parts of the country has been an entry point for hackers and those who will take data and hold the cities ransom. So we've been looking for this grant money to supplement what the DPW has and not wait for the enterprise retained earnings to cover this altogether. This is just a little known cybersecurity issue that's actually happening in real time across the country. So these systems the system that we have runs on very, very, very old software code. So again, great collaboration, IT and DPW to get this done.
Fantastic. Well, we certainly don't want to get hacked, and that's great about the grant. So I would entertain a motion to approve this appropriation. Unless councilors, do you have any questions? Sorry for not asking. All right, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, Councillor Coniff,
Aye.
Councillor Denham, and I vote aye. This motion passes. Next up is a $128,000 appropriation from enterprise retained earnings. This is for a return and waste pump replacement at the wastewater treatment plant.
I can't hear you anymore, Tom.
Uh-oh. Can you hear me now?
Is it me?
I don't know.
Probably.
I can hear just fine. So
Can-
maybe it's you, Councillor Coniff.
Okay.
Um, I don't know. I'll just keep talking for a sec. Oh, well. Hey, can you hear us now?
Say something.
Councillor Coniff? Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, I'll figure it out. I know what we're talking about here. I
All right.
will. Do you want me to make the motion?
Why
Is
not?
that where we're at?
Can you
Just
hear
thumbs
me?
up, thumbs down.
No.
Can you hear us? So moved.
Well, oh, yeah. Okay. I'll make a motion to recommend this appropriation to the full council. All right, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
No.
It doesn't matter, she can't
All
hear
right.
us anyways. So
Yeah.
I don't think she-
Well, yeah. Okay. And the next one is a air valve replacement at the Love Field Street Pump Station. So what the memo says is the air relief valve on the, you're good? Can you hear us
I
now?
vote aye.
Oh, great, yes.
Hear you.
The Love Field Pump Station, yes, so the air valve release, the discharge piping is in need of replacement. The repair cannot be delayed until a full rehabilitation can be funded. Additionally, ahead of full rehabilitation, it is necessary to install bypass pumping connection. And so this is a $307,000 appropriation. So
Now I can hear
can
you.
you,
now, Tom.
you still can't hear us? Oh, okay, sweet. So yeah, we're on the Love Field pump station improvements. Any questions about this, councilors? I would entertain a motion to recommend this appropriation to the full council.
Second, so moved.
Motion is second. All in
Aye.
favor, Councilor Coniff? Councilor Dunham?
Aye.
I vote aye. Okay, I think that's everything.
We had a donation account for the police.
That's right. We do have the donation account for the police. And that's all the appropriations in any case.
Yeah.
Chief, why don't you talk about the donation account?
Sure. So the donation account is, we're looking to set up a donation account for both the police and fire. We received a $1,000 donation from the Easthampton Savings Bank to be used for our mindfulness and meditation program that is being performed by a gentleman, William Rosenbeck. It's received a lot of good support. A lot of our officers and firefighters have been attending the previous sessions, and it's great for their way to manage stress and maintain focus. So it's a welcome donation to keep going. It would have to be for, it's a donation to both the police and fire.
Okay. I have no reason why I would not want to take this gentleman's money, and it sounds like a good cause. Councilors, do you have any questions?
No, I was not aware that being a police officer was stressful. So this is good that we're taking care of you. So yay.
All right. I would entertain a motion to recommend the establishment of this account to the full council.
So moved?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Counselor
Aye.
Coniff?
Aye.
Counselor Denham?
Aye.
I vote aye.
Thank you.
Okay. I think that's everything. Okay, super. I'm just double checking that we didn't miss anything, but I don't think we did. Give me just one sec. It's just kind of a lot of pieces of paper. Snow. Oh. Yeah. Okay, I think that's everything. Unless there's anything else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Motion second. All in favor, Counselor Coniff,
Aye.
Counselor Denham.
Aye.
I vote aye.
Bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.